I guess this is the traditional. This is the traditional kind of end of any kind of conference. Pontificating about the future. I'm told that you'll do much better than pontificating, but the future of blockchain. That's the title we have. Again, if any people have questions, we'll share it. We've had covered a lot of ground today in terms of the good and bad and the ugly, I suppose, and where we think we're going. So you should have some questions, I guess. I guess for people who weren't here this morning, and for people who haven't been talking, we'll do the traditional introduction. So Dirk, do you want to just say who you are and kind of what you do in terms of blockchain games?
Yeah, hi, my name is Dirk Lueth. I'm a founder of a company called Uplandme, and the company itself is called Uplandme. We're based in Silicon Valley, and what we basically build is a virtual property trading game where you can buy, trade, and sell virtual properties, and this is based on real-world addresses. And we started out in a closed beta last year and just launched our open beta early this year. And novelty is that we are available on the iOS store and Android, but also on the mobile web.
Hi, my name is João Abrantes. I'm the co-founder of a company called Blockbastards. We are not mean, but that's just the name. We've been focusing for the past 2 years in the development of a rewarding mechanism for games based on blockchain. So basically it rewards people for the act of playing as a primary objective. And together with it and to showcase it, we've been also focused on the development of a tower defense game called Blocks, which kind of gamifies blockchain for everybody that is a player and not aware of what blockchain is all about. And so we kind of introduce people to blockchain in a very basic way via this game.
I'll pass that mic on and use my mic. Hi, I'm Kish Hirani. I'm a CTO of a company called Terra Virtua. We sort of started off as almost creating Ready Player One in virtual reality with blockchains to now completely different, and that it's a digital collectible platform, which is almost no link as such. So also do technical advising on multiple other projects. The one I can mention is it was on esports, and it was, I guess you could say blockchain, but it used more the use of smart contracts, and that's why I love that it was using it for its strength as opposed to. But I've been in 23 years in the video games industry, and I consider, well, people can say I've been a veteran in the video games industry, but I've been in blockchain for 2 years, and again, they consider somebody like me as a veteran in the blockchain industry, which is scary.
Hi, I'm Ben. I think everyone here has already seen my talk. I'm a CTO for Blockade Games. We've been building blockchain games for the last 2 years. We're building Neon District. We've made Plasma Bears, Legend of Zabo, Pineapple Arcade, and a bunch of other random experiences. My day-to-day operations are really more the R&D side of things, making sure that the games that we're building can be fully supported with blockchain.
Good. So we have quite a kind of a mix of kind of developers and game developers and kind of other experiences and services. And actually, it's something that we haven't spoken a lot about today. We've been very focused on game developers because I think that's kind of where the focus of blockchain is at the moment. But there are actually quite a lot of blockchain game services as well, which is kind of good to bring up. But let's start very open. The future of blockchain games. I mean, quite how you as individuals are going to break that down. But we'll start with you, Dirk. How do you see the future of blockchain games?
Well, the future of the blockchain is pretty straightforward. I think people will not notice that it's really blockchain anymore, and they don't have to deal with any of the difficult stuff, and it's going to be great user experiences. But we have to, look a little bit further what it really means at the end of the day, what blockchain is. And blockchain is what we've heard many, many times today. It's about this true ownership and this will, I believe, generate probably new types of games. It will create new types, on the game operator side, but also on the server side will probably generate new types of businesses. But I think since typical blockchain that people are stakeholders or consumers other stakeholders in the whole ecosystem. What we will see is, what we haven't seen is that that consumers will also start to participate much more in the whole value creation, and which when you maybe want to compare it, like Facebook, right? In the old days, you had newspapers. It was pretty much one-way directional type of communication and to distribute news and information. Then Facebook came and all the other social networks, and that obviously opened up that people could interact, and of course this is called user-generated content. So I believe that also with blockchain technology, this will allow, let's say, user-created value creation. It's a double word, but something like that, which will probably allow then all those consumers to participate, and the borders between the consumer and operators, service providers, somehow that will blur more and more when we go further that direction.
Today, I think it's actually been interesting that that's actually a theme that's come up kind of quite a bit, formally from kind of the sandbox into kind of less kind of formal user-generated content, but you have that link. Sorry, João, what's kind of your view?
So I think, what is the future? Long term, short term. The thing is, we can all imagine how it will go in quite some years from now, but how to walk towards that, because we are here in a sector specific that is very tech savvy, which is gaming. So probably it's one of the best sectors for blockchain, because technological people are gamers and vice versa, or if I can risk to say that. And so it's easier, the adoption, but there's a lot of other sectors where it's not really like that, and so it will even be more difficult. I can talk from my experience that I'm involved in some other blockchain ventures in other sectors or services around blockchain, and the industry is kind of lost on how to use it, and is doing all kinds of design thinking sessions on how to use or how they can benefit. And I'm not even talking about the users themselves or the final ones that will benefit it. But more into the gaming, I think I can all imagine gamers that play a game just for the fun of it. When they see a big hexadecimal in front of them, they will be scared. Either today or in 1 year or in 2 years, they won't learn it easily. And so we need to make it very easy for people that want to play games, and by accident, and I've heard it quite a few times today, that we are easing the way players get into the blockchain. They are in the blockchain without even noticing. That's really how I feel we should go. That's the next step should be really onboarding people in a kind of a soft landing mechanism, so that they aren't even aware. And when they are in it, okay, then they have an extra incentive to learn a little bit. We don't live in an era where people read manuals or study in order to use a thing. And so I think that's the next step in the future for me.
So again, I'll echo in terms of, I'll say the word blockchain itself, although at develop conferences or so, it's a good, powerful, for investors, something different or so. I don't see that becoming a vocabulary for the end consumers or so, which is a good thing. It should just be games. And I think the bigger players, so Ubisoft is the only one which comes about, so, and it's quite public that they are working on blockchains or so, but I think somebody else had mentioned the likes of EA's, Activision's, when they jump on board or so, which, and they might be on there. They just don't want to be around in that space publicly and mentioning that. And I think that's where the future is, especially in the mainstream gaming. So yeah, certainly I think the word blockchain, and I'll just add a bit more into that, and especially, and I mentioned this to a lot of people, but when you start using vocabularies like blockchain and tech, so it's almost like, and I'll use this because internet gets compared quite a bit and easy to relate to. So it's like in the mid-90s, you'll be trying to tell people internet is going to be amazingly big, but you keep talking about HTML and JavaScript. This is the most amazing thing you'll do with HTML and everything. And it's almost at that level, it's almost you're talking about tech, but you just want to talk about the end product as opposed to the tech.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. In one of my previous talks, I had a slide that just detailed the infrastructure underneath email. Like everybody knows what email is, everybody knows how to use it, but there's like 50 different like layers underneath it. Yep. And it's insane, like to think that it took so long to get there. The future of blockchain, I think it's going to be the value underpinning the internet. I think the digital world and the physical world are becoming inextricably linked. Everybody has their phones all the time. Everybody is always online. Everybody has like 3 electronics on them all the time. And then being able to transfer value, whether it's a non-fungible item or if it's a fungible one like Bitcoin, will mean everything. And it will just, it will fit so seamlessly with everybody's interactions and daily lives within the next 20 years. People are not going to know a world without it.
Okay, so let's get into this. I'll throw out some more specific or kind of tighter kind of ideas that may or may not be the future, and whoever kind of wants to jump in can jump in. So we're very focused on kind of Ethereum. Seems to be where we are at the moment. We had kind of EOS and Tron, didn't really do very much during the year. Obviously, a whole bunch of other things going to launch this year. Cardano, another kind of I guess next generation kind of smart contract platforms. We've got things like Cosmos and Polkadot in the future where everything's mixed up. Does any of that stuff matter? When we're talking about, people aren't going to talk about blockchains anymore. We're talking about we don't care what happens to email. You know, is that something you probably think about it a lot? But I mean, is that something for game developers or game service providers that you kind of think part of the reason we've not gone as fast as we hoped has been we've been very restricted by the kind of layer one kind of solutions, and that's it.
Yeah, I think. So, at the end of the day, blockchain is a database, right, in a certain sense, and that's very much like in the old days when you said, you know, we started working with a database, didn't work anymore, and then you replaced it, right? So, when you're a blockchain developer, you probably run into the same issue. Maybe the database is not as performant or does whatever, not what you want, and then you have to do a migration, but the end user or the consumer will just not see that, right? So that's exactly what I believe. And you still have a lot of innovation. Blockchain's getting faster, the framework's getting better, and all these kind of things. But when you started developing today. Of course, you have a lot of sunk costs, and you don't want to, give all that up. So you will think twice when you're going to start to migrate to a new database or a different blockchain, right? So there must be really additional value which you cannot provide in the current game in terms of gameplay, game loops, and that's the only. But I think this is exactly the same way how you decided earlier. We're just going to do it in the future in the same approach.
Yeah, I think we have to. So blockchain is very new, and it's not going to get any better unless people like us are working on it. A lot of us, point blank, a lot of us are going to fail. A lot of us are going to be trying really hard to make something work, and it just won't. And we're all going to try different ideas. Our company is very R&D focused for that reason. We try a whole bunch of different ideas. We see what sticks, and the technology will get better over time because there are more and more people coming in. If you've ever been to an Ethereum global event, it is ridiculously inspiring. F Denver is coming up. The last time I went there were like 1,000 people hacking. But it's going to take all of these people building infrastructure and trying things and getting things right for us to actually make something that can be supported.
It's like, and a lot of the time, it's something we as an industry self-impose. The consumers don't really care, but then they sort of do care in the sense that they take technology for granted. Everything is instant in mobile phones, etc. So when you talk about blockchains, why isn't it taken? Why is it taking so long? And there's no fixed timer. So I'll give you an example of when I was at Sony and talk about VR and the early days of VR, almost very similar conversation. Why is VR not taken off or so? And where's the AAA games of VR? And at Sony also, we used to confuse people a lot because AAA for VR is not a AAA for games console. But then when you start using words which people are used to, then you give them no choice apart from telling them, right, here's the bait and you've taken it. I'm sorry, shit, I didn't want to give that to you. And I think blockchain, unfortunately, it's getting into that space of like somebody has set a deadline for everybody because in the past there were certain successes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got to jump in with just a little more. From the academic side of things, blockchain is at the bleeding edge of both cryptography and distributed systems. Like, it has taken the absolute most forward technologies and forward algorithms, and it is doing the best that it can right now. That is why R&D is needed. A lot of the future work in blockchain is going to come from academia.
Yeah, I mean, I know still a lot of maximalists on different kinds of blockchains. There's the Bitcoin maximalists, and there's we can sit on the other side of the blockchains and go towards proof of stake, like EOS has been quite popular over time. What I define is, and I totally agree with, we will be in constant mutations and improving. What I find quite important and what I believe that will happen is the interoperability. Be able to have different kind of networks and protocols and be able to migrate or to transfer value in between. That's for me the most important thing that's being mentioned a lot, but really not happening yet.
Mm-hmm. Don't get too negative. But I mean, does anyone think that blockchain won't become a big component of the games industry, say in the next 10 years? I mean, do we have a slightly deterministic view that we are so individually enthusiastic about it that certainly I can't see it not happening, but maybe we're being a bit blinkered, and actually there could be quite legitimate reasons why it doesn't work technically, or user experience, or legal stuff around it? Or does anyone have a view on that?
I mean, that's what's so fun about working in this industry, right? Like, it's not really an industry. It's still a hypothesis. And I'm pretty sure that every blockchain game has the same users. Like, there's like 3,000 people who are actively playing this, up to 10,000. But that is just a rounding error. That's like those are the people who call your customer support in the big game companies.
Just also again defining that, will blockchain be part of every game or so? Again, blockchain is just not that one small thing or so, but I see pretty much cryptocurrency, which I see is a killer app for blockchain. And that's how it should be treated, as being integrated in a lot of future games, but not the blockchain part of it or so, but the underlying technology will need that. So yeah, suddenly how we'll be paying for it, and especially gamers, I mean, they just, we already pretty much paying digitally, although we're using fiat currency to pay digitally, and blockchain, and I think that's already, you can categorize that as a blockchain success game.
So maybe adding to that, I believe that actually VR, AR in combination with blockchain will be the next big thing. So I tend to say, why? So no, exactly. So no, it's all those buzzwords. But if you look at the development, right? When your internet started, you have AOL to get people online, and AOL is not around anymore. We know that, right? It was in the time of Microsoft. Then was the 2000s when social came around. It was basically Facebook, and we all know Facebook was declining, and we have LinkedIn and stuff. Then we had the mobile phones, and each time there was a new paradigm, Instagram with mobile and Snapchat coming up. So actually for the 2020s, there must be something new. There's always has been in the past, there was always something new. And I think if I look at the current technologies which are out there, of course people say AI, but I think AI is more kind of a feature to everything. But blockchain, and I seriously mean that, blockchain in combination with VR and AR can probably create something really new, a new brand which will be not the next Google or whatever, which we are not aware of as of today. And I think gaming is the best way of entering that, because the whole world is more and more gamified. We all know there's 2 billion people playing these days, and it's a part of the everyday's life, like TV was 20, 30 years ago or whatever. And that will probably somehow be the thing. It's not in 21, it's not 22, but I believe in the later 20s we will have a new brand which actually will leverage those technologies, because we know AR, they're all working on those glasses, and when you walk through the streets and you see virtual objects there, you can do stuff, and all of a sudden because of blockchain you can grab those and you can truly own those. We've heard those words today many times. These are new things which will probably help to create this new paradigm and make a successful new brand. That's my 2 cents on that.
I really don't have a definitive answer on that. I think, like every technology, we need a killer app, and then things will easily follow. I really don't know if blockchain is gonna do the trick in the coming years. I don't think we should focus too much on the technology as trying to demonstrate that we found the problem for the technology. I think we should do the other way around. And at the moment, what I still see, and that might be the reason for such a low amount of active dApps being played or the crowd in it, is that it's still too much in the speculation side. I think it's not too much on first it's a game, and then, by the way, it has a specific feature where blockchain adds real value, either on the tokenization of an asset, or on the gamification, or rewarding or transferring some value, or in-app purchases in some other way. But really, like bringing blockchain into it just because it's the new era, I don't think we are going there.
So I do want to touch on the VR, the AR thing that you were talking about. There is somebody right now named Josie Bellini, who's an artist and a good friend of ours, who is creating paintings, digital paintings, and T-shirts and everything, and they're all crypto themed. And when you take your phone out and you show it in front of it, you can basically broadcast like a new version of the asset in front of you, like it comes to life, which is really cool. So she's actually already merged AR with her paintings, and all the paintings are also tokenized.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's really cool stuff.
It's coming.
Do you want to talk a bit about having launched it as a VR kind of blockchain project? You want to talk about some of the issues you found?
So again, I think, and again, maybe slightly disagree because we went through that sort of thing. It's great for investors at that given time because you're taking almost sorry to say buzzwords, and that's why I added connected AI and actually deep learning should be added in as well into that. But one thing we definitely found, it's throwing all these things. I mean, the ambitions were great. I think it was far bigger than what it'd be, and then everything else, I think, just after the whole, we went through an ICO, by the way. So that and that's where we were late to the ICO. Is probably I shouldn't blame anything else apart from that. It's literally was the timing of it, as opposed to wanting to do everything and then failed at everything or so. No. I think still the future, there will be a lot of exciting things. I actually personally think, we are definitely caught on with video games, so AR will take a lot of time. I mean, there's some amazing stuff like Reality Clashes using AR, and there'll be few. I don't think it'll be just assuming because VR has got some killer apps and the Beat Sabers, etc. now coming up literally as killer apps for VR. I don't think AR will be pretty much the same parallel. It'll take its own course. So, and again, I think blockchain, yes, it needs to work. You can't just add on and hope it'll work or so. Yeah.
Have any questions in the room? No. So I think an interesting theme, whether it's the future of blockchain games, I don't know, but the interesting theme that I've kind of picked out during the talks, and yours being one, Ben, is that we really are, it seems like, really are kind of stripping away decentralization in a way that I don't think in the last, this time last year, there would have been a bit more of that kind of more traditional, whether it's a maximalist thing or, kind of you don't own your private keys, you don't own your Bitcoin sort of thing. It seems like it'd be very hard to find people. I know there are a few still in the blockchain games industry who that would very much be their philosophy and will be till they die sort of thing. But it seems like as an industry we've moved very much into, no, let's really, let some things that would have been sacrosanct to be decentralized, we just, for various reasons, it just kills the user experience so much. I think that's a big shift, and I think it'd be interesting, I guess, the question, is that the future of blockchain games is actually, one, we're not using blockchain as a marketing tool to talk to people, and actually we're not even really using blockchain very much. I mean, I guess it's something we've discussed with Plasma Bears. Do you want to take that one first and then pass it on?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because there's definitely this pendulum that swings between like pure decentralization and then basically making it as easy as possible for the user. And maybe I'm kind of maybe it's not exactly that pendulum, but that's what the objective is, right? Like we want to keep progressing the industry forward, so we're swinging back and forth between these ideals. I have some more thoughts, but I'm going to get you guys talking first.
So we're living in the land of Brexit, obviously, but if you think about the European Union, it's also about centralization and decentralization.
Oh no!
Everybody awake now? Okay,
Be
great.
careful what you do. What you say. Don't know who's in the audience.
All right, but I think so. I think there's a lot of theory around the principle of subsidiarity. What that means is that actually the optimum, the minimum of cost or the maximum of output you get actually is a mixture between centralization and decentralization, right? And I think that's actually true also for gaming at the end of the day. If you're really on the completely decentralization side, I mean, that's maybe, that's a great libertarian dream at the end of it, but there's so many other downsides. Costs are high, or you lose control. You have things which destroy, especially games. Sometimes you need somebody to look over it. And the way this principle of subsidiarity functions is actually that you help someone to help himself or herself at the end of the day. And I think that that's somehow probably how it has to work also in gaming. If you have to do something centralized where you still control it, we're all trying to create successful game economies. And if we leave it up all the way to the market, the problem is not that the market is destroyed, but you have those extreme players or people who are trying to benefit, from some loopholes. And then, of course, economy can be destroyed. And that's why you need to pay attention as a centralized unit, but you should never have your own objectives as a centralized unit and just to making money for yourself. So that's very important, and I think that's what all probably blockchain companies, when they do that well, then I think they will have a successful game going forward.
Yeah. Me?
Go for it.
Yeah. So I can see the centralization in two ways, really, like starting with the networks. We started with pure decentralization, like 2008, really slow networks. We've evolved, and more recently, and we've seen it wouldn't really work. We've walked to kind of decentralized networks, like, for instance, EOS, and it has proven very recently that it also has its very big issues. So where should we be now? Not in the extremes for sure, somewhere in the middle perhaps. I don't know.
Okay, well, it's an honest answer. Good.
And but then, really, because I think we are in the infancy of blockchain, and so we are learning with our mistakes and with the mistakes of our peers, people that are kind of doing the same thing as we do. And so we are learning all of us. So all the people with all the certainties, they won't prove anything to me. Then more on the that side of it, or on the use of the networks. The decentralization could or should work, especially on educating our users. It's hard for someone, and I don't want to repeat myself because I've been on this topic before, it's hard to onboard people when they don't understand what you have for them. And so you should start simple, and then do things for people with the cost of centralizing things on you, and later on, when they are comfortable, give them more. That's what I believe.
Yep.
And I'll take it on a different angle of this, where I just think, it needs to be first and foremost, and talk about video games, gameplay, and that's what the user cares about. And so if in the back end of tech of where things are there's no user who'll say that's fine, that technology hasn't caught up yet, so you can't have this feature, etc. Then just don't reveal that feature. So, and I think that's the key thing. So I like any studios who are actually video game studios integrating and brought in the blockchain team aspect of it and combining and working together, as opposed to somebody fairly new and and assuming that's the only way they can have something innovative in terms of a game, I don't think that'll work. You never know. I mean, there have been successful cases in mobile space where they've created games just because they weren't from traditional video games background. Free to play is a classic example. But again, I don't know the answer on that. But my sort of money would be that still working as traditional video games company and understanding gameplay also should be the priority, because that's all the user cares about and sees.
So not your keys, not your coins, right? So that's the most important thing. Even though people don't want to learn how to use wallets, that's going to have to happen. One way or another, it's going to happen. They don't have to run their own nodes, though. Like, you can still have a subset of people, right? Yeah, you can have a subset of people who actually support the network and actually make it secure. That's fine. You probably don't want to have fully decentralized game contracts. Like, it's a fun thing. It's really fun to experiment in that and make really cool things with that. But if you're going to make a mainstream application, that's probably not going to fly.
Okay, kind of come to the end. Oh, Andy's got a question.
Sorry.
Come on.
So, like, there's like been a few themes while I've been in the room. I'm a big blockchain advocate, obviously, and I think everyone here is. But do you ever have doubts? I mean, would you rather be in some of these other rooms, like take blockchain out of it and concentrate on making games? Do you have any fears about failure, or are you like in this for the, you know? Can you see the future very clearly, and that blockchain game is going to succeed?
Good question. Like it.
I mean, it might be a good one to sort of end on.
Yeah.
What is the future in everyone's opinion?
So I tend to say, take that. So I mean, being an entrepreneur, right? You know, things can be a failure always, right? That's how entrepreneurship works. And but on the other hand, you're very optimistic that your thing will work out very well in a certain way. And to be honest, this is much more challenging here, right? I mean, it depends what kind of person you are, right? But I'd say, the other world, it's interesting, but I think also kind of boring, right? You don't have those challenges. The challenges you have, you're reducing your cost of customer acquisition cost and something, but to really do something blockbuster-ish, it's so hard now in that space, right? So I think this year is particularly much more interesting for the coming years. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dirk. I think we start from, as entrepreneurs, we take the uncertainty as certain. So we need to deal with that on a daily basis, and especially on such a immature technology. We start, at least I talk for myself. I started with the main objective of learning and being in it. And then if it flies, then perfect. Regarding if blockchain games will be big, I think I don't really like the term blockchain games. I rather call them games that use blockchain for some reason. And there are multiple reasons where they can use blockchain. But making it a category where we call them blockchain games, at least for my head, it gives the hint that we are looking at them as speculators, which is the wrong step to start.
And I'll put that success is relative, and in a lot of those other rooms or so, especially if you are India, so most of them are probably looking at breaking even sort of thing. Having worked at Sony and Microsoft before that or so, success on there were the top 100, and none of them were the indie developers you would be in those other rooms. So relative to that also should be equally worrying as we would be in this room. But then, yeah, so again, I think it is that, and once the big boys get onto that, and I agree, the word blockchain games should, I don't think it'll catch on as well, so not that we'll have to worry about. But it will be just games, but just when all the bigger players get in on there, and the IPs, I think it's mentioned sort of earlier on, a couple of the bigger IPs coming along there, that's what consumers really more care about, as opposed to something uniquely different and new, and creating a new IPs in any given room. I would use that. It's difficult. It's can be very, very difficult. I think you've created quite a few new IPs. I guess it might be and you could probably comment further on that, I guess.
Well, first, I don't really have any doubt that blockchain games are going to be a thing. Like, it might come off that I'm very skeptical about it, but we're just stating the facts. I really do think that blockchain is going to be an integral part of a lot of games in the future. Maybe not in the current form that it's taken. But crap, I had another part of that I wanted to say. I can't remember what it was. It's been a long day.
Okay. that would have been a good ending question, but I had an ending question in my head as well. So it's not that your ending question wasn't very good, Andy. But, no, careful. So final question before Andy gets too clever. And it's an impossible one to answer, of course. But how do you think this year will pan out? I guess we could, you can't just say how it's going to pan out. You can say what's the worst that could happen and what's the best that can happen over the 2020. Over this year, how do you see the upper and lower limits of what would you be looking at?
So a lot of people have started making these games in 2017 and 2018, and it takes a long time to make games. We have Age of Rust coming out this year. We have Neon District coming out this year. We have NBA Top Shot coming out. We have like a lot of legitimate games. Okay, maybe I should not say legitimate. That's kind of crass. But a lot of more inviting and exciting mainstream experiences are coming out, and I think on the upper limit of that is we could actually start hitting mainstream adoption this year. On the lower end, it takes another year. I think it's inevitable.
Good.
So I'll come from there, and that this year it's quite a noisy in terms of video games, launch of 2 brand new consoles, streaming, everything else coming on there, and users. If you're looking at money-wise, everyone has that finite amount of money, including sort of streaming, Disney and everything else, and that's all money going away also. So I think it's going to remain very similar. I don't think anybody should expect this is the blockchain year, 2020. That's which is not a prediction, really. I'm almost stating how things are, and it'll just remain that way. Sorry if anybody wanted better than that.
No, good in this opinion.
I think in terms of for blockchain to be massively adopted, if I can call it like that, it will help a new bull market to help people also, because of the price raise, pay attention again to what blockchain is and look for what is the industry doing, and so it will help. And nobody knows if it will happen or not. Then I think Ethereum 2.0 will possibly come out. They've been saying that repeatedly over time, and that will probably pave the way for some things to happen. So yeah, I think we won't see a lot of changes, but we will start seeing some changes which will be big.
Yeah, good news was that crypto was down, and we're really in this down market where not a lot of noise, and hopefully all those people who just came in opportunistically have left now, and those people who really want to build some have stayed. And I seriously believe then there will be some good stuff coming out this year. We'll probably have 1 or 2 games which are not going to be on a Fortnite level, but you were mentioning Mythical Games, as a AAA game probably there could be something interesting. We don't know. Yeah, it's like any triple game, right? We have a lot of AAA games which never succeeded. But as soon as one game is successful, there will probably the big ones, big guys are always coming. So I see there will be 1 or 2 games taking off this year, and not in the sense of super blockbusters, but in the sense that the big guys are starting taking notice. Maybe there will be the first M&A also even.
Good. Well, on that note, thank you very much, panelists, for your expertise. Thank you very much. People who've stayed right to the very end. Good job.